It's your girl DePunk. So today we are actually going to be pardon my French. Today we are going to be doing something that I had promised my friend for a very long time. And I am going to be sharing some posts, as well as actually live journaling in the anti-anxiety notebook that was given very generously by my very wonderful friend, Fortunist Games. If you enjoy art and deep human nature psychological stories, please follow Fortunist Games for some very compelling series, including Sam in New York and her most recent work, which has just been very fascinating to follow, The Book of Joel. So as of now, I have been, for a few months, been keeping up with the anti-anxiety notebook. I've been reading the chapters. So basically, this has been compiled by various therapists about cognitive behavioral therapy. And it is very, very good to engage in cognitive behavioral therapy because depression, anxiety, as well as any kind of behavioral patterns affect us very deeply, especially more so sharply in our modern age, especially with the pandemic, the isolation, economic, austerity and things like that. And the fact that we have become very, very aware. We read things. I think we've become a very, very informed generation, if you will. And this makes us very aware. And the more you're aware of something, it can either go two ways. It can either very much devastate you because you are aware. There is truth in that saying where they say ignorance is bliss. Or you can do something to remedy the problem that you have been made aware of. So my friend had given me this. It's a very nice cloth-bound book. I do pardon the dust. You can see it's been used a bit. But it's a very nice cloth-bound book. It also has a marker. It has different chapters. And I did not write my name in it. I had been so busy filling it out. So I'm actually going to be writing my name in it. I'll just put down Teresa for right now. I guess most of you by now do know my full name. Does not matter. Or you can just call me Tete. I usually answer to Tete. These are the different people who have compiled this book. And of course there's a foreword by the lead therapist Hod Tamir. And there are principling guides here. And how will this journal help with anxiety? In this journal, you will practice becoming aware of your relationship between your thoughts and your feelings, empowering you to challenge and adjust them over time. When should I use this journal? Whenever you feel anxious or stressed, but there's no pressure. You can use this however often you feel comfortable, whether that's daily or on an as-needed basis. How does cognitive behavioral therapy fit in? CBT is considered the gold standard of therapy for managing anxiety. The format of the journal entries is based on a common CBT exercise designed to help you identify and challenge and adjust your thinking patterns. And I do want to I do welcome two PA traveling girls for joining us. Nice to see some fellow Keystoners. I'm also in Pennsylvania. I'm in the middle of nowhere in Mifflin County, a mix of beautiful mountains and very antisocial people. So I am actually doing a anti-anxiety journal that my friend had given me. So here is the contents: the introduction, anxiety and evidence-based tools, journal entry guide and sample entry. This also deals with mindset, mindfulness, sleep. And I do want to thank Fortunist Travels for joining us. Thank you very much. And I do want to thank you so much for the journal. You may be seeing this live stream earlier where I had mentioned the benefits of this journal. But here are the contents. We have the introduction, anxiety and evidence-based tools, journal entry and sample entry. You have journals entry 1 through 5. Journals entry 3 through 10 contain with changes possible. There is Chapter 3, or Section 3, Mindfulness, the Power of Breath. Journals entries 10 through 15. Then we get into sleep, overnight therapy. This covers journals entry 15 through 10. We have positive relationships. Everyone needs support. This covers journals entries 20 through 25. Distracting our minds effectively. This covers 25 through 30. Concluding, checkout. And of course, this gives the different things, the feelings wheel, cognitive distortion, CBT basics, and then of course you have more extended journal entries and notes. These are all very excellent components when dealing with cognitive behavioral therapy. It is very, very important to have a good mindset, to have mindfulness, sleep, positive relationships, distractions. So for people with anxiety or depression, distraction is very much a must. Distraction does not always have to mean that you are wasting your time or anything. Most of life itself is nothing more than a continual series of distractions. Now, distractions, what I like to say is that it keeps you away from hyper-focusing or fixating on something that is unhealthy, like anxiety, bad memories, self-depreciating thoughts, because you may feel that your body or your behavior or whatever have you, your social or economic circumstance does not meet the gold standard of society. And we're taught to be, think that, I'm worthless, or, I'm, way behind the eight ball of everybody else. But that is simply, it's simply just an ism of modern society. But without further ado, we're going to get on with the introduction. So I had gone through the introduction, defining anxiety, and I do like how it says, imagine trying to focus with several people at once. This is what anxiety can feel like. And I understand that because I myself have learned to multitask, but it is very stressful. And neither do I like it when there is a demand put on for a certain performance to be done on that. It can be quite stressful. I do not mind it if everyone is in a good mindset, but for example, I work in customer service, and surely do I doth despise whenever Karen or Chad, especially a boomer type, has to have the worst attitude on God's earth and just is intent on making you miserable because they lead such a entitled, pampered life that heaven forbid they're slightly inconvenienced. But without that ado, but yes, anxiety is overwhelming. And anxiety just doesn't always mean being scared. It can mean feeling overwhelmed, agitated, pardon my French, pissed off. It can be a number of things. So cognitive behavioral therapy was developed by psychiatrist Aaron Beck in the 60s. And he noticed that his clients often engaged in destructive thought patterns that negatively affected their feelings. And these feelings affected their behavior. So when you change your mindset, you essentially change your way you react and how you do things. And, this, for example, this is so with me, that you are nervous about starting a new job. Perhaps you start worrying that your coworkers won't like you, or that you won't be competent enough to do what's expected of you. This then sets off a fear response in your body that suppresses your ability to consider what might go well. This is how anxiety can begin to grip your mind, warping your reality, that you are starting a new job into a different one, that you will fail at the job. Your instinct in this moment might be to avoid these thoughts or ignore important work decisions or not talk to coworkers. This wasn't really the case. My problem was not so much a problem, but I had an opposite response. I just became the most full-blown extrovert on God's earth that I could be. And that's what I did. It actually helped me to a degree, but then I became a people pleaser, which may or may not have been to my benefit. It certainly aided to my survival in such a workplace, but it certainly did not benefit me, because when you become a people pleaser, people will walk all over you. I have been trying to show a little bit more backbone, a little bit more initiative, sort of risking reproach for taking initiative because of micromanaging. But in the end, there's just different outcomes with different people. And it really depends on your workplace environment, how you present yourself. And of course, above all, your coworkers and those above you. But let's get started here with this. So these journal entries are designed to be intuitive and easy to use. And just skim through the basics, the check-ins. So I don't necessarily use these as a clinical basis or on a clinical frequency, but I do use them to challenge certain thought patterns. And of course, my friend has been very, very wonderful. My friend has very keen insight. My friend should be a psychologist aiding people, because honestly, the aid that my friend has given me has been far more beneficial than any of the psychiatrists that I had seen in the past 3 to 4 years. So, this is the GAD scale, 7. It's a scale used by therapists to measure anxiety. And these have different things, like over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by the following: feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge, not being able to stop or control worrying, and some fool just let his car honk like that. I have an open window. I live in a semi-urban area, so pardon the noises of the birds and all the white suburban noises you will hear. Trouble relaxing, worrying about too much about different things, being so restless it's hard to sit still, becoming easily annoyed or irritable, feeling as if something awful might happen. I do have quite a bit of these feelings, particular irritable, annoyed, as if something awful will happen, trouble relaxing. Sometimes I do have trouble focusing at times. And this here gives you an initial sense of what to work with the book. And, it asks you to identify major events, relationships, or thoughts that are persistent sources of anxiety or worry. So these are the journal entries. So we're entering that now. And these give you what to think on. Like when it says, what happened? Describe the situation. Try to focus on the facts. Be brief and specific. The smaller the moment in time you can pinpoint, the better you'll understand the emotions and reactions that follow. For instance, the boss called me on for an idea is more effective than Monday morning meeting. What is going on through your mind? Put yourself back in that moment and note the thoughts that were in your head. Identifying your thoughts is a foundational aspect of CBT. Instead of dismissing your thoughts, e.g., it really wasn't that big of a deal, allow them to flow honestly. What emotions are you feeling? Note the intensity. Name the various emotions you felt in that moment. Rate their intensity from a scale from 1, barely feeling the emotion, to 10, most intensely you've ever felt this way. 10, that's pretty much how Andre feels all the time. LOL. I think he's a 10 all the time because he's so Mayakovskian. Do your best to avoid listing anxious. Use the feeling wheels, Appendix C, for help. What thought patterns do you recognize? So there are different thought patterns that a lot of people often fall into. There is all or nothing, blaming others, catastrophizing, emotional reasoning, fortune-telling, labeling, magnifying the negative, mind reading, minimizing the positive, overgeneralization, self-blaming, should statements. A lot of these thought patterns I find myself falling into time from time. And these can often be very, very destructive. You can have the all or nothing, blaming others. I think for me, many times, it could go to catastrophizing, I should say. Fortune-telling, labeling, magnifying the negative, mind reading. I do quite a bit of assumptive mind reading. Overgeneralization sometimes, self-blaming quite a bit, minimizing the positive, should statements. I don't know necessarily if I do blame others. I think perhaps to a degree I will. Is it well placed? At many times I do believe it is well placed to a degree. But I also believe too that maybe some of that is essentially something I just want to put a blame on because I myself may not want to take that into consideration. But naming the thought patterns makes them less huge, intimidating, and threatening. And of course, when you identify these patterns, they'll help you to see how your self-perception works. How can you think about the situation differently? Challenge your thoughts. Take a step back from automatically believing our thoughts is the hard work. So yes, taking a step from automatically believing our thoughts is the hard work of CBT. Try to take on a more objective, helpful, and self-compassionate look at your thoughts and patterns. What might a friend, mentor, or coach say? How can you grow from this? Consult appendices A and B for more examples of how to reframe your thoughts. So, these notes will help your journaling and provide additional questions for reflection or include tips for incorporating more tools in your life. This is your space. We encourage you to use it however you wish. A few suggestions: draw, sketch, or scribble, or free write. Continue your answers from the previous section. Reflect on the therapist's note below. List one small concrete action you can take now or later that might make you feel better. So this is the space that you can use for that. And, journaling is a very valuable thing to do. So this is an example. So you write down the month, date, and year, whatnot. I already filled it out this. At dinner, Jesse's mom made a joke about my job. Something about being an hourly worker. Or did she say lowerly? I think she said hourly. The whole family was there and everyone laughed. I immediately thought, why did she say that? Does everyone think I have a terrible job? I wonder if the entire family thinks I'm... Did she say mooching? Mooching off my partners. Or that Jesse deserves better. Honestly, I thought maybe I really can't get a better job and Jesse might leave me eventually. What are you feeling? Embarrassed, self-conscious, and then she lists the intensity. Blaming others, fortune-telling, magnifying the negative, should statement. Jesse's comment hurt, but was likely just a joke without bad intentions. And though I do make less than Jesse, I really enjoy my job. I don't really know what Jesse's family thinks of us, but they consistently welcomed me into their home and been friendly. I guess grammatical error. Why am I not talking right? So this is very, and like I said, it's brief, concise. I've been doing some of these things which have really, truly helped. And then you continue. This person obviously drew, and you know what I mean. This is a sample fill. This is actually kind of nice. I do kind of like this dotted paper here. And I do want to thank everyone who's been watching this so far. If you want, I will find you the link from my friend for this therapy journal if you would like to have it and get it. And so she's continuing her answers. Those moments are usually pretty tough for me. I know I spiral, and they seem to happen a lot. I wonder if I should just talk to Jesse's mom about how I feel. Next time I'll head to the bathroom, splash a little cold water on my face, and focus on my breathing for a minute. And she drew a flower. So these are the journal entries here. Sometimes we take for granted what is in our head. In fact, the more you put into your thoughts into writing, the more you can challenge them. So with this, I've done like different entries, but I'm actually going to start a new one just because some of those entries were a little sensitive and I don't quite want Instagram. It's not that I have any shame in what I want to share, but some of them are just a little intense and I'm not ready to open up about all that. Recovering from a different number of things, including religious upbringing, trauma, different things, let's just call it that. So I'm actually going to start on some of the sections here. We'll go through this here. But yes, so these entries help you here. So we do have different things. One way to gauge if you are catastrophizing is by asking yourself, 5 years now, will this matter? A lot of times it will not. Mindset change is possible. Change is very possible. And people propose they either believe themselves capable of a change or the opposite. Now, I am pretty much, when it comes to my sign, I'm a cardinal sign. I'm not necessarily fixed. Fire signs tend to bounce all over the place. I am a Leo, by the way. That's my sun sign. Lion, baby. And, if I'm not threatened, extrovert comes out, and I am ready to play hardball. You have to keep telling yourself that change is possible. You have to keep challenging yourself. And so this one here is reflect on a moment when you experienced or perceived a failure. Something to think about. I'm actually just going to take the book because I don't want to accidentally flip through some entries here that I have. So bear with me one moment, and you can just stare at my weird thing here. My weird craft thing. So here's something might be good to think on. Build relationships however they work for you. It's just as good to have a few close relationships, many loose tie relationships, or whatever makes you feel best. And I was sort of reflecting that. There's always a constant revolving door of employment, entering and leaving at my work. And that's just normal. And people come and go from out of your lives. And it can be very hard because we are taught, as creatures rooted as we are, to try to grow where we're planted. But there are times where we have to move on and progress and find somewhere else to grow and thrive. This is the success of many people. You cannot stay where you are. It definitely follows the idea a bit like a prophet cannot be a prophet in his own town. Although I don't subscribe to Christian theology anymore, I will say, I got to admit, it's just like Jesus. Jesus wasn't accepted in Nazareth, so he had to leave. He also came from a crappy, pardon my French, shitty town. Because, Nazareth's ugh. People are he come from there. He probably thought. So, yeah, a bit like I do. I live in Lewistown, which is just a dreadful cesspool of a town. Probably not as bad as other towns I'll mention. Mifflin County at least isn't bad as Perry County. Shout out to any of our Keystone friends out there who know exactly what I'm talking about. But something to reflect on thoughts here. And I'm actually going to start writing in this now. Now you get to see Tete write. And I'm just going to be quiet and write in this. This actually has my name on it. Gift of a friend. So, we're actually going to be filling out an entry here, and today's date is the 20th of June. Sorry, misspelled that. So we just did an entry here. We were just sort of went through the space here. I did not draw on this. Did not feel like drawing. But then we have distractions. And yes, that's very true. So considering this distraction, we distract our minds effectively. In today's world, we don't look kindly upon distraction. We apologize when our attention wanders, download apps to keep us on task, and tend toward the belief that paying attention is always a noble pursuit. But distraction in itself is not a bad thing. In fact, in a clinical environment, distraction is often used to put people's mind at ease or shift their focus. In a 2018 study, researchers tested the efficiency of distraction as a tool for managing pain and anxiety among cancer patients. 80 women with breast cancer received more morphine for their pain. Morphine, that is. While half received both morphine and a distraction by way of a virtual reality video that brought them deep-sea diving or to a beach. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the women in the virtual reality reported a significantly larger decrease in pain and anxiety. This is one of hundreds of studies that have verified distraction as a useful coping mechanism. If you have ever sung a song while getting a shot or jumped around after stabbing your toe, you have experienced this effect for yourself. Distraction is based on a fairly simple principle. Anchoring our attention in something neutral or positive is easier than pushing it away from something negative. If we are feeling anxious, it might be easier to manage that anxiety by calling a friend or reading a book than by working through more sophisticated methods. For instance, using this notebook. Easier doesn't always mean better, of course, but distraction is a helpful tool when the ease is at the forefront of our minds, like when we are feeling low on mental energy or not quite equipped to deal with something in the present moment. This is when distraction can be employed as a coping mechanism. Sometimes regaining that sense of ownership over our minds is a crucial step for making other kinds of progress. And distraction can be a positive force. It truly can. Is distraction really a distraction? If you are doing something that produces something, like say a craft, someone might say, well, you're not making money off of it. Or what purpose does it serve? The fact that you created something with your hands, the fact that you are showing artistic creativity and design, aesthetic, beauty, maybe that might be something somebody finds and cherishes after a while. Or something that you can enjoy. There is a joy in that. And there are many people who marvel at the handicraft of other people. That is something uniquely human about us being human, if that sounds redundant, is the fact that we do make aesthetically pleasing things. And we have ideas of design. And, certain designs will they will evoke certain things, nature, academics, a time period, a personality type, a subculture. Those things are very, very good. Sensory distractions do help. Run cold water over your hands, tap your toes or fingers, allow yourself to watch or read something funny and have a laugh. Exactly. But this one here also warns too, distraction is effective for managing stress when used appropriately, but can quickly become a form of avoidance. To practice using distractive mindfully, try to set a limit on the time or frequency of the distract. That's very, very true. Last year I was struggling a bit with that. With scrapbooking materials, I was too fixated on that. But I was not using the scrapbooking materials until recently. Now I am, for my various crafts now. And I will probably do something useful with it. Maybe I will make crafts to sell on Etsy or sell to people. And also make that with art. And this one here talks about using distractions and shut down in response to rapidly escalating emotions. There might be better ways to react in those situations. Some great distractions also provide a growing sense of connection or purpose over time, such as painting or team sports. What distractions do you usually lean on? What are other healthy distractions you can cultivate in your life? And I think I'll probably make a little bullet list. And the reason I don't put down thick literature is because that's considered useful and enlightening for the brain. And it's a bit like eating vegetables. No one will laugh at you or, denounce you for reading thick, heavy lit. They'll be like, oh, you're smart, It's just this stuff where people say, 30, you're still doing that? Now, granted, though, I like the more mature, dark stuff. So I guess one could say fantasy. Oh no. I was just looking at the phone. Oh my goodness, I have to put down fantasy. No, I don't think so. Oh. That would be hilarious though. These are just the different things, scrapbooking, reading comics, but this is like positive stuff that one should limit and organize. Scrapbooking, reading comics and graphic novels, drawing, wood art, floral arrangement, crafting, listening to music, reading and watching horror and crime/supernatural subjects, tarot, astrological studies, meditating, napping, cooking. Those are the things that I like to do, people. So if you're ever thinking, gee, I wonder what Tete likes to do, this is what Tete does. When not, doing that 72-hour grind a week. But yes, this has been really, really wonderful to work with. I'm actually going to be filling out a blank journal here. So actually, I don't want anybody to look at the other entries here. But I'm actually going to go over here and find with journal entries. And this one was kind of particular for something. Yesterday was Father's Day. It was a little bit of a slightly painful thing. I guess just to throw it out there, I've had a very difficult relationship with my father over the years, and there were a lot of things that one could say were abusive and a lot of other harmful things that I won't go into at the moment. But he is separated from me now, and I'm very grateful for that. But it is very painful because there is an emphasis, especially in our Western culture. I can't speak for other cultures. Anybody from any other culture, please chime in the comments below. I am not generalizing anything or anyone. But I think a lot of times in Western culture, there is this emphasis between fathers and daughters, which does have an important correlation. I think both genders need the energy from other genders to create a balance. Female people, I think, need masculine energy interjected. Meanwhile, I think, boys or men or whatever, I don't mean to go into politics. Everybody is everybody and everybody is everything. But here's the thing. Masculine needs feminine, feminine needs masculine. These are things that exist, whether all these energies, if you want to put them in a label, a box, or whatever have you, there are energies. And if you want to say it, the sun needs the moon and the moon needs the sun. But there is such an emphasis on this, and it's a reflection a lot of times on the woman if there is a failure in that connection. And I just was feeling very depressed about it because of a lot of destructive and bad things that have occurred over the duration of my life, which has affected my life up until this point. But I am just going to write down a little bit of a note. I did download a digital journal app, which I often use. I sort of dictate into it, like those little dictagram or dictaphones people used to have, like in the way back time. But I'm actually going to write down a journal entry here. And I'm just going to do this really simple. And I'm actually going to make the date for yesterday. Sorry, I don't even know how this phone is working. Pardon my crappy handwriting. I'm just going to leave that blank. I'm just going to write down what I wrote down on my journal app real quick. Maybe it'll help some of you guys out there who are kind of struggling with, maybe you're like that cliche. Maybe you are the girl with the daddy issues. So I'm just going to write down these thoughts that I recently put in my digital journal app. I will also link to that app. That might help you as well. I'll just put... I know I have a lot of spelling errors. So anyway, this is actually though on a positive note. It sometimes is good to be free from something and to be numb from it as well. There are times where we become desensitized, and that can actually be a good thing. It means we can move on and seek to experience more in life and better things. I've been kind of blessed to grow independently. I still have emotional bonds with, say, my mother, as well as a person that has come into her life, and somebody who's also become a friend of mine. We're independent, we live our own lives, but sometimes it's good to have a bit of a family bond now and then, because we are human and we are social creatures that connect. But I am grateful for the independence and no longer being tied to the intense pain. So, although this does look a bit dark and whatever, it's on a positive note. It really is on a positive note, and I'm very, very thankful for this anti-anxiety notebook. I would definitely recommend for people to get it. There's long, extensive things for notes, and that, like I said, there are different chapters in here, references, minimize, and this also tells you here too what these thought patterns mean, like fortune telling. Similar to mind reading, fortune telling refers to making dramatic predictions about the future with little or no evidence. Just as mind reading overestimates our ability to know what other peoples are thinking, fortune teller overestimates our ability to know what will happen in the future. The last relationship only lasted 2 months. This one will probably do too. Example of reframing. I'm going to do my best to do what I feel is right for this new relationship, regardless of how long it lasts. There's also labeling and, magnifying the negative. You know what I mean? It's very good to have. So there are cognitive, and so these appendixes are very, very, very good to have. The distortions, the labeling, overgeneralization. And here's your wheel. You can, different feelings. Wow, this whole wheel sounds like Olive Entree's life. He's got this whole wheel here. But yes, this has been a very, very wonderful book to have. I really recommend it. I do want to thank my friend Fortunist Games again for providing me with this book. I hope that going through this has made you guys reflect and think on things as well. And I want to thank you for joining me on this live stream. I hope that you're all that you're doing well, that you're feeling better, and hopefully you might engage in something like this, and this will help you out too. Again, big shout out to Fortunist Games. I will leave links below or in the live stream itself, and there will also be some reels here. And I do want to thank everybody for their support. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have an awesome day. See you in the next live stream.